Frankly speaking, ladies and gentlemen, I was, because of the multifarious subjects, topics, things of importance that need to be articulated for today's 10th year anniversary, I was really at a loss of at what to underscore. So many good things have happened against so many challenges. And the fact that we are here today in the 10th year, celebrating with, for me, our significant milestones and achievements from 10 years back, is something that need not be articulated any further. It is obvious. However, it's not obvious to all. We need to make it obvious to more, with more concrete and purposive outcomes and more deliverables, and cascading it into a more granular level within our society. Now let me segue a bit. Credit should be given where credit is due. By the way, pleasant good morning to each and every one of you. Let me dispense with the pleasantries. I believe that Stratbase from 11 years ago has evolved and withstood the test of time. It has already grown roots of resilience, sustainability, and relevance. And it has proven to be the foremost think tank on international relations and security studies outside academic institutions and the most resonant of institutions of the Philippines. I believe it is just as important for us here to help Stratbase and to focus on a way forward which can make the products of its convergence efforts to make it cascade down into society, and on the other hand, make more evocative, louder, the outcomes of the convergence into the international digital space, the international awareness space, and the international academic space. Much of the norms that we are fighting for here, which have a direct effect to our entitlements and our territorial integrity and sovereignty, have much to do with international convergence. And thus, if Stratbase is chambered within the Philippines, then we do ourselves a disservice. It must spread its wings. And I, for one, am willing to help Stratbase spread its wings by purposive partnerships, sustainable partnerships, and perhaps joint regional fora that can be rotated with co-attribution. In the Indo-Pacific region, if we know, there is one fundamental challenge. That is the aggression by China and the unlawful and illegal expansion of China. But China today, who knows tomorrow? So, this expansion and aggression carries different iterations in several areas. So each track 1.5 or what have you, track 2, has its own flavor. However, there needs to be some convergence, philosophy, dynamics, and connectivity between these track 2 organizations. Not only that, you can derive sustainment by spreading your wings worldwide, getting more resonant worldwide. At the end of the day, it is very important too that we are fueled in several ways. Because this fuel, this capital, goes into operations, it goes into resonance, and it goes into evolving new norms to face challenges in the future. So I commit, for one, my personal and official support for Stratbase. It has proven to be transparent, has proven to be loyal to the interests of the Republic of the Philippines, unwavering and unstinting. So I give you that personal commitment today. From 10 years ago, in a defense sphere, the defense space is indubitably important because it is the most visible implement of national power which a state can possess. Since President Marcos took office, he gave the instruction to transition the department. I would like to point out that it is not a total shift from internal security to external defense, because this would be violative of the law. Internal security under the law is still a principal responsibility of the armed forces of the Philippines. But nonetheless, to add the importance of protecting our sovereign rights, territorial integrity, and sovereignty. Hence, this necessitated a top-to-bottom review of our defense establishment, which is still ongoing, mind you. And first thing that came to our attention was the scope of our operations. The scope was a post-World War II scope of principally land-based defense, a reactive defense, and actually a post-invasion defense. The defense plans, contingency plans, structures, and other key elements of national defense had not been reviewed. For example, to give you an example, I was in the government arsenal the other day, and the concentration still is on small caliber ammunition. And it does not do justice to the term arsenal. Arsenal is not merely a factory. It is something impregnable. It is something like a mint, which is a sovereign endeavor of the Philippines that should not be outsourced. That is something that a country can rely on and should rely on. And so we re-strategized. So with the armed forces. And the first thing that we needed to come to grips with was the extended mission area that we would have to do. That would add the Philippine Rice, our exclusive economic zone, and other areas where we have jurisdiction. That added more than 2 million square kilometers of maritime domain to the mission area. Secondly, where were we in terms of our ASEAN neighbors? A review was done. Where were we in terms of evolving threats worldwide? That was done. I cannot divulge the results, but we have come to the fact that from our strategic bases, our infrastructure, our learning, education, know-how, and skill sets, to our capabilities, to our sustainment, there was a lot of work to do. And I had occasion yesterday to talk about 4 elements that need to be in place in order for us to achieve deterrence, which is our collective purpose. Number 1 is awareness. At the end of the day, we are democratic countries. And our expenditures it's a zero-sum game. And therefore, there must be commitment on the part of the public to take away something that is of visible value to them to something that is a sunk cost and very expensive and only getting more expensive. And I coined the term yesterday, I think Dindo was there, that what Filipino value will capture what we need to view the West Philippine Sea and all other areas of our maritime domain as. And it's of course ownership. It's of course owning it. However, the value that I came up with was yakap, to embrace. Why? Because when you embrace, you own, you protect, and you do not strangle the baby or whomever you embrace. You nurture, you steward. So there are three elements which are quite important to a cascade down. Secondly, we have to have purpose and resolve. So a higher level of commitment is necessary from our people. Purpose and resolve. And in purpose and resolve, that includes stealing our supply chains and industrial cycles to the capture of a single country whose interests are hostile to ours. And I find it valuable at this time to talk about not only the challenges in the West Philippine Sea, but the internal challenges that the capture by agents or entities or nationals identified with the People's Republic of China have with our critical infrastructure, our retail, and in the most granular of levels. Cartelization has occurred in certain commodities, not in rice, by them. And this has formed a barrier to entry of bona fide participants in forming capital for major foundational industries that we need to industrialize and be more resilient front of combating. So that is why I gave a prefatory statement earlier that the role of the armed forces of the Philippines is both internal and external, because these have an external result. And if we are not resilient internally on a peace and order or a national security level, then our external defense initiatives necessarily are compromised. The next level of commitment would be shall we say, not giving in. It not only resolve, but indomitability. That means we know the odds are not clearly in our favor, but yet we stay the course. It is a level of commitment once again. And lastly, we have to deter. And why are these vertically integrated? Because deterrence needs more than commitment. It needs actual spending. And it means lessening an entitlement to the public and putting these entitlements into building a credible and resilient force. That is why if we fail to cascade the value of standing up in the most granular of terms and public's awareness of the elements necessary to build a credible deterrence without a free rider problem, as economists want to state. A free rider problem here, taken to extreme, probably is the worst enemy that we have in our journey to building a credible deterrent posture. And perhaps that is what Stratbase must articulate. Without that commitment, then we cannot build a credible deterrent posture, which at the end of the day is necessary for us to assert our rights. Our neighbors alone are increasing their defense spending to almost 5%. Indonesia, which is not a claimant country and without any threat, has recently acquired 47 Rafale fighters, the latest variants of Rafale fighters. In our collective meetings with fellow defense ministers, everybody this year talked about the challenge of how their defense establishments were not growing at a pace necessary to meet the rapidity of innovations, coupled with the new specter of what an author calls the democratization of weaponry, off-the-shelf items that are available in online platforms with new technology can be converted into potent and lethal items. And that is a challenge that traditional defense establishments need to face. Nonetheless, we try to boost our position by entering into the all-important defense alliances. And these defense alliances would not have happened without the concurrence and the support of the President. Now, these defense alliances will not be sustainable if these are strictly defense alliances, but should be the foundations for more extensive economic and, at the end of the day, people-to-people relations. So, the convergence in that sense should not only be stratified on a more strategic or operational level of engagement, but should cascade. So our people in the statistics will show who they want to work with. And I view the low ratings of some country because of the lack of awareness. Talking about awareness. I view inspiration for our journey today with the almost forgotten heroism of Filipinos. And I'm talking about the Battle of Yultong, where 900 Filipinos held off thousands and thousands of waves of PLA volunteers. 900. This year, one of our objectives is to make a movie about it. And to serialize it, perhaps, and the intellectual property rights belonging to the government of the Philippines, because nobody remembers Conrado Yap and Jose Arteaga. And this was the Philippine troops in Korea were sent there in 1951, where liberation occurred in 1945. We were still a young country with growing pains, and yet the gallantry and the valor displayed is something, sadly, that the young people have forgotten. This is a tragedy that our education system should not repeat. And this is something that we should draw inspiration from. The Filipino is not defeatist at all. Far from it. However, we have to draw inspiration from sources that history has forgotten and to honor these people properly, so that in a way forward we build to our heritage, not by inventing history like other countries do. And by the way, the strongest opposition to the latest narrative of China is by Justice Chit Carpio Morales, because she's from Ilocos Norte. And Ilocos Norte is next. So, in all of these initiatives, building a credible deterrent posture, having defense resilience, industry resilience, telecommunications resilience, critical infrastructure resilience, critical minerals resilience, critical underwater infrastructure resilience, we need to converge. We need clear direction and purpose, and the government can only do so much. The private of the day, the citizen is the most important component of this journey. Now, I think, where are we? First and foremost, I think the piece of paper that came out 10 years ago, I equate with two collections of papers in the 1890s. In the same vein as the Arbitral Award, Dr. Jose Rizal wrote two novels, El Filibusterismo and Noli Me Tangere. And this spurred the Republican fight for an independent Philippines. Today, this piece of paper has formed the basis of a national effort to be aware of its entitlements, to be aware of the importance of our maritime rights, not only for us, but for future generations of Filipinos. And mind you, unsaid perhaps in the Arbitral Award is when the Arbitral Award states the fundamental and peremptory nature of UNCLOS, it also galvanizes and solidifies the archipelagic nature of our country, which is essential for the survival of our country. It is essential as a basis of moving forward. And this piece of paper has motivated an armed force to shift from a mono theater focus to a multi-domain, multi-theater armed force. It has been a paper of convergence of several countries who find common cause with the Philippines. From our Pacific neighbors, to the Indian Ocean, to Europe. So what is this Arbitral Award for me now? is not an award for the Philippines, but an award for the world, because it institutes the peremptory nature of UNCLOS, and it guards UNCLOS against revisionist attempts by selfish and tyrannical and autocratic powers. That is the arbitral award for me. And as proof of the potency of this piece of paper, this year's Balikatan exercise was the largest in history. And we do not credit anyone, but we credit the power of law expressed and enunciated in words. Law which is not merely hornbook law, but relevant not only now, but for future generations. And for this, we must have resolve, we must have purpose, and we must steel ourselves to be unwavering. In moving forward in this, definitely in certain cases, we need consensus. However, with the fundamental principles that UNCLOS controls our journey, territorial integrity and sovereignty of the Republic of the Philippines is inviolable. Thirdly, that we cannot compromise or fritter away our entitlements in any case is a political issue. Definitely, because it is a public issue. However, it should not be a partisan political issue and should admit of no debate as to its validity. Therefore, in these immutable principles, for these, consensus, not naturally, if everybody agrees, is fine. However, the danger of consensus, it is said that consensus is the veto of one. And on that purpose, we do not need consensus. We cannot afford consensus, but we need convergence. We need purpose against a determined adversary whose relentlessness is uncaring for its own people. Several millions of lives during the journey of this country have been wasted because of experiments like the Great Leap Forward, etc. To no avail. And as one of my favorite authors has pointed out, our adversary is distinct from the rest because of the fact that its Indo-Pacific policy is directly tied to the legitimacy of its ruling class and clique. Legitimacy of an autocratic regime and its iterations, it's a constant pursuit, because once legitimacy is lost, then they do not retain the perquisites of power. So, in that sense, let me wrap up by stating that there's much work to be done. And the next 10 years, as Richard had told us, what would I want to see? I would like to see a visible economic dividend from the West Philippine Sea that we all have worked for, if unilaterally or in convergence with those who have truly helped us. That is a goal that I would like to see, so that we mark our 20th year with something that is gained and something we can tell our people has directly benefited them. So, to the next 10 years, mabuhay po tayong lahat. Yakapin natin ang lahat ng ating karagatan, and thank you to our convergence partners.
Thank you very much, Secretary Chidoro, for that impassioned speech. Very encouraging.